Lenten Hymns 2025 presentation. That's the title of my talk. So I'm just going to ease into this. One of my favorite things to do in life is to go to a coffee shop and read a good book and have a cup of coffee. And I don't even know why. It just feels like a magical thing for me. And I thought about it, and I think the reason why is that I'm doing something that's kind of isolated and personal and intimate, like going into my own world of the novel. But I'm surrounded by people in the coffee shop doing their own things. They're drinking their coffee, they're having conversations, there's noise. So it's that nice mix of intimate yet social. And you can choose to look up, maybe you have a conversation with someone and then you get back to your book. And it's like my happy place. And so I hope I get to do that in Paris, for example. And I try to do that in my life, but it happens about once a month. So that made me think that it's kind of a similar thing, I think, with singing hymns in church. We're all reading this very, sometimes personal, these lyrics, I have sinned or I have done these things, and yet we're singing it all together. We wouldn't necessarily say those lyrics to each other. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? But we sing it together and we are all there. And it's personal yet communal. And I think that's the magic of singing hymns in a church and worshiping. Actually, prayers together also do that. Reciting psalms together also do that. So that's just an analogy that I came up with it. I think that's partly why I love church. So I commend that to you as you're reading or singing a hymn sometime in the future. And it's like, wow, this is kind of intense. Let's look around. Oh, but we're all doing it together. So feel it here, but feel it here. So that's my intro. And also, yeah, so I wanted to do this 3-part talk on the themes of Lent. And then as I was looking through the hymns we could use, I realized it's actually kind of obvious what the themes are. They're not that like hard to find. Sin, penitence, cleansing, fasting, trying to do better next time, mindfulness, prayerfulness, reading, being in the presence of God. I mean, that should be a year-round thing. But in Lent especially, we take this time if we are so inclined, and we really kind of sit with God a little more deeply. And a lot of the hymns of Lent give us that little doorway through the lyrics and through the music. Now that's all maybe kind of obvious, but those are the themes of Lent. I could stop right there, but I won't. Instead, we're going to look at a couple of these hymns and talk about what the themes are, and I'll tell you some background story on some of them. First of all, I hope you brought a hymnal, and if so, please turn to hymn number 150. 150. 40 days and 40 nights. Hymn 150. First of all, I want to tell you that someone from my home parish, Church of the Advent of Christ the King, he passed away, Ewing Cobb. He was in his 90s, and he had all these different books. And we were gifted with some of his books, one of which is a 4-volume hymnal 1982 companion, which is amazing because it has all of the kind of biographies and background about some of this stuff. So there are a few hymns, and Laura, I think you can attest to this. There are a few hymns that you really kind of have to sing at the beginning of Lent, because otherwise it kind of grows stale. Like 40 days and 40 nights, when you're like on day 15 or so, it's like, okay, it's not 40 days. Why are we singing this? So they kind of get front loaded, so to speak. And I'm going to talk about 3 of those, all of which have the number 40 in them. So hymn number 150, 40 Days and 40 Nights, was written by George Hunt Smithan in the year 1856. I like to consider it a sort of overture to Lenten season because it kind of grounds you. It grounds you in the story of, is this the one? Well, we're going to sing it about temptation. First Sunday in Lent is always Jesus tempted by Satan in the desert or the wilderness. You know that. So it's one of those that, again, the story is from like 2 weeks ago at this point. And so you want to sing this hymn then. Now, I was looking in my book, and apparently, I want to read this to you. The guy says, the original text for this hymn is described as impossible for public worship. It's 9 verses and has all of this stuff. I'm going to just like read it kind of super fast to you. And then you'll see why the one we have in our hymnal is much better at 5 verses. I think you will anyway. 40 days and 40 nights wast thou roaming in the wild, 40 days and 40 nights fasting for us undefiled. Sunbeams scorching all the day, chilly dewdrops nightly shed, prowling beasts about thy way, stones thy pillow, sand thy bed. And shall we in silken ease, festal mirth, carousals high, all that can our senses please, let our Lenten hours pass by? Actually, we should keep that one. That's a good one, actually. Shall we not with thee retire, far from all the giddy throng, searching out the heart's desire, mourning sin the whole day long? Which we should be. Shall we not some penance bear, from all joys of earth abstain, fasting with unceasing prayer, and with thee to suffer pain? Thus may Satan's deadly wiles let him lust or pride assail, or draw near with glittering smiles, make us neither faint nor fail. For a heavenly food is ours, and in faith's high hopes we live, riches too come down in showers, brighter far than earth can give. Holy peace and truth divine, joy and gladness, light and love, all around like angels shine, tokens of our home above. Keep us then, O Savior dear, constant ever by thy side, that with thee we may appear glorious at our Easter time. See, not bad. You'd sing that, right? Yeah, I mean, you know what? This guy's wrong. But he does say it's impossible, the lyrics are impossible for public worship. So we have a distilling of that. Did you get to translate that okay there, Chichi? So I thought we would sing 40 days and 40 nights together. Let me think here. Yeah, so we usually sing this on Ash Wednesday or the first Sunday in Lent. And just pay attention to how it's sort of an intro into Lent. Let's sing that together. Thank you, Lord. Isn't that beautiful? That sorrowful thing going on. What do you call that? Like a minor key or something? It's a minor key, but some of the words, it's mysterious also. And so I think it calls to mind the seriousness of what we're entering into. But the words, while they start out a little kind of sad, oh, Satan's coming. They get a little more, we're going to make it through because the angels are going to come and minister to us as well. So that's just one of the hymns I wanted to call to your attention. Feel free to ask questions as you go. I will not have answers, but I will make them up. Next, turn to hymn 142, please. 142, another of the intro hymns, I like to call them, that have the word 40 in them, and so you got to use them early on. This is, Lord, who throughout these 40 days, in 142. So the thing I like about this hymn, and we're going to sing it in a little bit, think about this. The hymn nicely lists all the themes of Lent in a way that is easy to comprehend. And that is because the writer of the lyrics, Claudia Frances Hernemann, she wrote this in 1873. She wrote hymns primarily for children, actually. And so certainly this one is well suited for teaching children about certain aspects of the Christian faith and observance of Lent. In part because it is so comprehensive in its inclusion of some of the season's main theological themes. So it's something that kids can understand. It's got a little, you'll see, it's a little simplistic. The word I've used sometimes is boring, frankly. So, we were like, oh, that one's boring. Let's do an interesting one. But don't let the childishness fool you. All the themes of Lent are here. I want to read a little passage from this companion book written about this hymn, number 142. Let's see, what text of the hymn? Yeah, so here are the things. This text, these lyrics, for the Lenten season, they take the form of a prayer of petition. Stanzas 1 through 3 ask, Jesus, as you did these things, fast, pray, contend with Satan, win the victory, hunger and thirst. We ask you to help us to do these things, mourn our sins, stay close to you, struggle against sin, die to self, and live by your word. You know, all kids should know this, right? But these are kind of core things in Lent. We're asking Jesus to help us through, even as we acknowledge all he'd been through. And then the fourth and fifth stanzas ask for Christ's presence in life and death to lift up the vision of Easter joy. So we're going to sing that now, and I want you to, again, note the themes, right? Because they'll be, and again, we sing this year in and year out, but I think part of the power of any kind of worship is through repetition, it really seeps into your soul, right? So let's sing hymn 142 together. So you notice that like the first line is like we're acknowledging what Jesus did, and then the second line we're saying teach us or guide us or give us strength. So there's that nice kind of acknowledgement and supplication going back and forth. And then the last two verses are like Easter's coming. Isn't that nice? You guys sound so good, by the way. You have a choir or something?
Yeah, have the choirs here.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So now let's turn to hymn 143. Just turn the page. Another 40. This is the last 40 we're going to sing. The glory of these 40 days. 143. 143. The glory of you got to flip a whole page, Rod Cornell. The glory of these 40 days. So this is a very old hymn, maybe as old as the 6th century. It's written by anonymous. We don't know. Excuse me. In fact, originally it was written in Latin. So yeah, one of our oldest Lenten hymns. It's another one to sing at the start of Lent. It's mention of 40, and it's supplication that God equip us for the journey ahead. Now, I'm someone who believes it's never too late to start that Lenten journey, even today, because I know some of you have not been fasting. I know some of you had pork chops on Friday, ate on Wednesday, Barbara Metzler. Well, only because I've done the same. In fact, I went to lunch with a friend on Friday who doesn't even go to church. And he said, and I was going to order some pork leg. He said, it's Friday. And he was ordering, he's not even really religious, but he was ordering vegetarian because it's just a tradition in his growing up. So I was shamed by a heathen. But that's all right, because they have their wisdom to impart at times. So this hymn, I think, is noteworthy for its biblical allusions. I'm going to just kind of look at the text. Look at so the glory of these 40 days we celebrate with songs of praise. For Christ, through whom all things were made, himself has fasted and has prayed. Alone and fasting, Moses saw the loving God who gave the law, and to Elijah fasting came the steeds and chariots of flame. So Daniel trained his mystic sight, delivered from the lion's might. And John, the bridegroom's friend, became the herald of Messiah's name. Then grant us, Lord, like them, to be full oft and fast in prayer with thee. Our spirits strengthen with thy grace, and give us joy to see thy face. O Father, Son, and Spirit blessed, to thee be every prayer addressed, who art in threefold name adored, from age to age the only Lord. So Moses and Elijah also fasted, during which they experienced the divine presence of God, right? Moses goes up 40 days. That's when he gets the tablets afterwards. He's fasting. That's when Aaron back down the mountain was like, let's get a golden calf. I can't stand this. We need something to worship. He's been gone for like 5 seconds. So, but he's up there fasting and experiencing the divine presence. Elijah fasts in the wilderness. He's fleeing? Remember the crow comes and gives him something or other? Oh, Father Bill, I can't remember. Do you remember that Elijah and was it a crow or something?
It's a raven.
A raven.
Oh, they're both corvids.
There we go. Thank you. So Elijah fasts and also experiences the divine presence, and so may we in Lent, right? That's the idea here. Moses, Elijah, they fasted. Jesus fasted. There was a kind of a conduit to the divine as a result of not having pork chops and cake and such. And so maybe we're going to get closer to the divine if we do some fasting, because it puts us in mind of the presence of God in our lives. Make sense? Good. Daniel and John in the 3rd verse, we're talking about, I think, John the Revelator, the one who wrote Revelations. It's
John the Baptist.
Well, that's what, see, it says the Messiah, but I think it doesn't fit with Daniel. And it's the bridegroom's friend.
Yes, there's.
Is that Baptist?
Yes, that's when the bridegroom comes, the bridegroom's friend stands back.
Do you see? I'm just setting you an example of humility up here and humiliation. Thank you. Bravo, bravo. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Father Bill. Yeah, so William and I actually had this argument because just for the record, I did say it was John the Baptist, but how is he like? Because Daniel has these visions, but John the Baptist, I don't think does. Yeah. Oh.
But
And
in the wilderness, not.
he's in the wilderness not eating. All right. Well, so this doesn't quite fit, but in prayer, Daniel has mystic visions. John the Baptist, we're going to assume, had some prayer. He had some mystic visions. So may we in Lent. You got to be praying. You might have some mystic visions, right, Laura?
Absolutely.
Laura's had them. And so may we in Lent. So let's sing this. Are you up for this? Can you do three in a row?
Yep.
Diane, you good?
I can't sing at all, so.
Okay, thank you. Diane can't sing. Now, I have a suggestion for those of you who cannot sing.
I do.
Well, sing anyway. Maybe don't sing so loud. It's disruptive. But
Don't be offensive.
I know some people who just kind of shut down a little when the hymns happen, but you don't want to miss out on the richness of these lyrics. So if nothing else, read along or sing quietly to yourself because they're meant for you who maybe don't have the voice that, you know, some of the others do, and know that the message is for you and participate as you can. Father Ernest.
It also makes a difference to sing it, even if you can't sing, because of the vibrations it does in the brain, which is absolutely.
To make a joyful noise unto the Lord.
And it also staves off dementia. If there's no reason not to. Do it.
There you go. Stave off dementia and feel the power of the words. And Father Ernest, you said something. The vibrations in your head do what now?
It makes a difference in how your body feels it as well as singing.
It's in your body. See, Diane? Are you encouraged, Diane?
Sing along in the car when there's nobody there.
Yeah, just, I would say we could put all the people who don't sing in one area, but that's not so good. All right, we're gonna sing hymn 143. Diane, I want to hear that terrible voice of yours, if you can. That you call terrible, but we think is glorious. The glory of these 40 days in 143. Isn't that nice? You sound so good. Makes you want to do Lent together. Right? Is that also a minor key? I see a sharp, but it's a minor key. There's a E minor. We you know, those music is not neutral. It pulls at you when you've got a minor key, you know, kind of hits you in the gut. So we love that about our Lenten hymns. Okay, so are you able to thank you, Laura. Are you able to hear about one more? This one's a little more detailed and fascinating. It's 140. Or I can save it till next week. It's the John Donne poem. It's hymn 140. It's going to take me about 10 minutes to talk about, but it's pretty. You know what? We're going to talk about it. I prepared. You good? Yes. So this one's a little harder to sing. It's hymn number 140. 140. So, gosh, this is so good. Wilt Thou Forgive That Sin by John Donne. It was written by him as a poem during an illness he had in the year 1623. He commissioned music for it, but they didn't add that hymn to the hymnal until the 20th century. The music is very grave and solemn, as you will see. Am I right, Laura? Yeah, so it is no joke. Also about this hymn that I think is wonderful, the lyrics are very personal. I did this. Wilt thou forgive that sin where I begun? And so when we sing it, you're hopefully thinking about your own little sins. You're not thinking about John Donne's sins. You're not thinking about someone else's sins. You're thinking about yours. And so it's very personal, but it's also because we're singing together communal. So, you know, I think this one we're going to sing first. and then we'll talk a little more about it. Do note, well, yeah, no, let me talk a little more about it. So that first verse, the second line. So wilt thou forgive that sin where I begun, which is my sin, though it were done before? So personal sin, but also original sin. It was done before. And so there are all these theological things going on in Donne's poems / lyrics, including this back and forth with that. The other thing to note is written by John Donne. Note how many instances of Donne as a pun are in the lyrics. And so we're going to read that now. Think of his name and think of course, the word done. Wilt thou forgive that sin where I begun, which is my sin, though it were done before? Wilt thou forgive those sins through which I run, and do run still, though still I do deplore? When thou hast done, thou hast not done, for I have more. When you've got me in my spirit, you actually don't, because I have more sins. John Donne. And there's another pun in here too. Wilt thou forgive that sin by which I won others to sin, and made my sin their door? Wilt thou forgive that sin which I did shun a year or two, but wallowed in a score? When thou hast done, thou hast not done, for I have more. I have a sin of fear that when I've spun my last thread, I shall perish on the shore. Swear by thyself that at my death thy sun shall shine as he shines now and heretofore. And having done that, thou hast done. I fear no more. Isn't that amazing? Yes. It's very personal and it's universal because we've been there, we've been done. And but he has that last verse of please help me through this. And if you can promise me, Jesus, I'm going to be okay, and you will have done. You will have. So that's one thing. The other pun, don't know how much I want to go into it. So let's go ahead and sing it. Okay, this is hard to sing. So, choir, we need you. That's something. So you can't sing that and not feel it if you're paying attention. So a couple of things about this. Don't know if this will be helpful or hurtful, but his wife, Anne Moore, had died 6 years earlier. Bye, Maritza. Bye, Carlos. Bye, Camila. Bye, Andrea. Bye, Samantha. Bye, David. Adios. 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 Auf Wiedersehen. Adios. That's yes. Thank you for, look at all those Easter eggs they did. Hey, Gigi, thank you. Bravo por los huevos de Pascua. Cuídense mucho, ¿ok? Adiós. Bye, Maritza. Oh, that's right. Happy birthday. So, you know, most of them, if not all of them, came from Venezuela, and they're at different stages of being able to be here, Carlos being the most advanced with a green card and others at other levels, and that there are some concerns about these things. And so keep them in your prayers, if you will. They don't seem too worried, but that's good,
Well, just
But
let us
maybe
know if we
okay.
can help.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted. Terry Leroy is the one who helps and is their attorney or helps with their stuff. So Anne Moore was Donne's wife. She had died 6 years earlier. He's sick in 1623 and he writes this hymn. So this is, these are notes I took earlier. Though he did love her, she represents in this hymn his struggle between human and divine love. He was a youthful man about town when he was young, an older Anglican divine. And so he struggles with, quote from the book, a turning away from God to seek satisfaction in a creature, in this case, his wife. Maybe not cool to call his wife a creature, but we all have that kind of thing of like, I have the divine tug and I have the earthly tug, the, other tug, if you will. And so if you look at the last line of music for each verse, when thou hast done, thou hast not done, for I have more. his wife and more.
Oh,
So I've got that thing, that kind of symbol of my human kind of shortcomings, which I know is kind of not cool in terms of like, she's your wife, gotta love her. But there is that interesting idea of, I don't know if he thought of this, but somebody did afterwards. When thou hast done, and having done that, thou hast done, I fear no more. And I think he was kind of devastated by her death as well. So maybe it's partly that he's trying to make amends with his own kind of grief. And hey, why are you grieving so much? It's been 6 years and she is, she's in heaven with God and this is to be rejoiced. And so I don't know, but that was something that was brought up in the book that I thought would be of interest. Then the last thing I will say is this hymn, the author of this companion volume writes, has echoes of Psalm 51 in it. This thing about Psalm 51 is the one that says, for I know my transgressions and my sin is ever before me. Against you only have I sinned and done done what is evil in your sight. Now, do you ever have a Bible where like at the beginning of each psalm, they have what's called a superscription? It's like, this is a Psalm of David written when blah, 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 when he was doing this or that. So the superscription above Psalm 51 is a Psalm of David after the prophet Nathan came to him after he had gone into Bathsheba. So Psalm 51 is David acknowledging his own sin because you know what happened with Bathsheba? He had her husband off so that he could have his way with her. Nathan the prophet tells a story about a rich guy who takes what little a poor guy has, and David gets all indignant. That rich guy, I would put him in prison and kill him. And Nathan said, it's you. And so David wrote Psalm 51, as among other things. So the psalm and that idea of kind of having done wrong and penitentialness is a little bit echoed in Psalm 140 and his kind of conflict with war and God. And does that make sense? Kind of, it's not clean, but there's that idea of where do my affections truly lie? So we recite Psalm 51, by the way, coincidentally, every Ash Wednesday, right after we've had ashes imposed. So everyone does the ashes, then we go and we sit and we kneel and we recite Psalm 51 together, which don't have a BCP, but you know it because it's about, I have sinned, O Lord, I have sinned, and all these things. And so Psalm 51 is one of those key Lenten Psalms as well. Now I will finish with a quote from Donne. So, he was the dean of St. Paul's Cathedral, right? And so this is a little, I'll leave you with this little bit. So he was the dean of the cathedral. His wife had died. He wrote this in 1623. He had it set to music. And apparently he kind of enjoyed having it sung at the evening service on occasion. He'd requested and such. And so this is a quote from the book. Donne caused this hymn to be set to a most grave and solemn tune, and to be sung to the organ by the choristers of St. Paul's Church in his own hearing, especially at the evening service. And at his return from his customary devotions in that place, did occasionally say to a friend, the words of this hymn have restored to me the same thoughts of joy that possessed my soul in my sickness when I composed it. And oh, the power of church music! That harmony added to this hymn has raised the affections of my heart and quickened my graces of zeal and gratitude. And I observe that I always return from paying this public duty of prayer and praise to God with an inexpressible tranquility of mind and a willingness to leave the world. So it brings him back to that time when he wrote it. And even though he's talking about his sin, he's also feeling that pull of, God's salvation in Christ. And so he's comforted. And I think what he says about church music and what it can do for us and how we can leave the church with tranquility at the end of a service, give or take, depending on the sermon. But that tranquility that can come to us, especially in a season like Lent, where the music really moves us, is something to aspire to each week as we come. So sing these hymns and feel them. It is important to note that however personal this poem and hymn is, It speaks to the struggles in all of us, ones we are particularly called to ponder in Lent, our shortcomings, if you will. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. Father Ernest.
Can I say one more thing about done?
Yes.
If you look at 322,
The hymn?
the hymn,
Yeah.
22, when Jesus died to
322.
save us,
Yeah.
that was up for a hymn tune needed by the National Church when we're doing the new hymn book. And so I submitted one because I knew it be when Jesus died to save us, a word and act he gave us. Instead, I wrote, and we've sung it here at St. Andrews as a communion motet, when Jesus died to save us, a word and act he gave us, and still that word is spoken, and still the bread is broken. He was the word that spake it. He took the bread and brake it, and when that word did make it, I do believe and take it. The beautiful thing, and this guy, David Hurd, who was on the committee, they selected his instead of mine. Mine is the one that's sung around the country because they liked my version better. The organist said, who played it first, St. Gabriel's, said, I think instead of Monday, Thursday, they wrote it for Good Friday instead.
Oh.
And it's much better for Monday, Thursday.
There you
Anyway,
go.
John Donne was awesome. And I loved those words.
Yeah.
And Jesus died to save us, a word and act he gave us. I think he just awesome.
Yeah. He was that rare combination, I don't know him that well, of feeling and intellect brought together, and both were made more, echoed, resonant. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.